In order to fight against these violent and endless number of symbiote army, the Red Skull army and the Coalition army, at the moment, they all tacitly switched their muzzles and began to resist these brutal symbiont creatures. As Red Skull said, he is a tyrant, cruel and tyrannical, and ambitious to rule the world, but if all human beings are killed, or the whole earth explodes, he still rules. Fart. Damn dirty creature, how dare to be so rampant on my planet. The Red Skull directly controlled all the warriors and Sentinel, and began to encircle the symbiote, even giving up the superhero that he hated. However, the number of symbiosis is too much, and in the frenzied devouring, as long as enough energy is stored, new symbiosis will be reproduced immediately, and then other creatures will be possessed. As long as it is alive and has flesh and blood, it will be possessed or swallowed by the symbiote. The whole earth is in a mess, and countless people have already fallen into despair. The more the enemy fights, the more they kill, the stronger. How can they fight? Countless wars burned, and despair. Countless army of symbiotes spread to any corner of the 25th world like a plague. How could this happen? Why did these ghosts suddenly become like this? Phil Coulson was also completely dumbfounded, with deep confusion and pain on his face. He released these monsters with one hand. He watched the intelligence from all over the world and closed his eyes in pain. It's over. Judging from the current situation of the war, it's over. It's only a matter of time before the whole world is swallowed by these endless army of symbioses. It would be great if the earth had its own gods. Phil Coulson thought of Ancient One, thought of Martin. If there are these indifferent or cruel guys, I am afraid that from the beginning, the Black Dragon will not be so unscrupulous, right? Snapped. On this invisible helicarrier, a symbiote suddenly appeared on the glass, squirming through the glass. Everyone was silent, looking at the black creature silently, and there was a feeling of abruptly letting go, as if they had been waiting for this moment. Everyone knows that exposure is only a matter of time. Unexpectedly, the earth will end in this way. Phil Coulson looked outside with a bitter expression. They personally opened Pandora's box. In order to destroy a monster, they released a real monster. At this moment, I'm afraid you won't have a chance in your life. An extremely cold voice suddenly appeared. This voice was not deliberately amplified, but it spread all over the world in an instant. What's more terrifying is that there is a terrifying aura that is enough to extinguish the fixed star flame at will, and it envelopes the world in an instant. It is also not deliberate. The Comer just appears very flat, and the entire solar system is spontaneously plunged into this heavy depression. The symbiote army who was slaughtering wildly seemed to have noticed some terrifying natural enemy. This voice is... Phil Coulson was startled, his eyes widened, revealing disbelief. It's Martin, that guy actually came back, and, more powerful. Fury stood on the console with his back to everyone, his voice calm, but no one knew the huge waves in his heart. In the end, is this guy who hates many forces to deter powerful enemies? No, I'm afraid that Martin came to the Earth this time not to save the world at all, but because the Black Dragon made him very interested. The Earth originally lives and lives, whether humans exist or not, Martin really doesn't care about it. This is the truth. Fury figured it out in an instant, and sighed deeply. It's really ironic. Did the guys they wanted to kill or drive away in the past come just out of interest and save them? Sir. Phil Coulson whispered. Fury didn't look back. Issuing the war mobilization order, our opportunity has come, and at the same time, we will inform everyone of the return of our gods. Phil Coulson was silent for a moment, then turned to execute. In outer space, the focus of all eyes lies. The two figures confronted each other at close range, and the whole body exuded a terrifying coercion. A trace of it leaked at random caused a slight tremor of the entire earth. Nar looked at the human in front of him, his gaze condensed, and he felt a vague sense of oppression from inside the opponent. How is this possible? Your specifications actually surpassed Heavenly Father, can be compared with the universe god. During my sleep for thousands of years, did you actually give birth to a brand new universe god? Nar's ugly dragon face was full of consternation. In a mere 1,000 years, how can a new level single universe be born in this universe? 1,000 years is enough. Even if the destiny of every age, the love of the universe, and the retreat of the gods, it is impossible to become a god in just 1,000 years. Besides, this guy in front of me. You are from Earth. Well, Martin? Nar quickly learned Martin's information through countless symbiotes, and was immediately stunned. He controlled the symbiote dragon back a few distances and was uncertain. The self-confidence that has stabilized for billions of years is also at this moment was shaken. A human being has only risen 10 years before becoming the god of the universe all the way? Have the times changed, or am Nar getting confused? It seems that those stupid old dogs have miscalculated, and they have made you a cosmic god equivalent to them in just 10 years. He. Nar let out a creepy low laugh, and said, I remember that the son of destiny in this era should be the last eternal titan. That guy named Thanos, but he didn't expect that the last person who became the god of the universe was an earthling. Martin looked indifferent, his eyes moved, falling on this dragon, and immediately said indifferently, Stop talking nonsense, Nar. I know you. Your name has spread throughout the universe for billions of years. It's really an honor to let a brand new god remember me. Nar's voice revealed the yin and yang strangeness. Even in the face of the existence of a level single universe, he still not panicked. What is Martin, this new god? Nar has been fighting with various gods on and off for billions of years. So, young Earth god, do you want to protect this planet that I fancy? You want to be an enemy of me, the god of symbiosis, Nar? Nar gave a weird smile. Martin also smiled. No, you are wrong, Nar. I am not interested in the Earth. Before Nar nodded in satisfaction, Martin spoke slowly. I'm here specifically for you. I'm here to kill you. Kill me. Nar sneered. Martin no longer spoke, but directly exposed his sharp fangs and punched the symbiote dragon in front of him. With the terrifying volume of the level single universe, comparable to the specifications of a universe by oneself, even if it was just a seemingly ordinary punch, a terrifying space rift was struck in the space in a sudden, and the punch hit Nayu. Nar let out a roar of rage, and the entire huge body shrank suddenly, waves of abyssal power surged, condensed to a point, and at the same time his body quickly retreated, trying to dissolve Martin's terrifying punch as much as possible. Unfortunately, it's useless. Snapped. There was a loud noise, the planet trembled, and the fixed star was restless, as if the sky broke and the earth cracked. I saw countless black matter splashing out. A hollow was suddenly blasted out of this black dragon's huge body. This body structure was directly affected by Martin. Destroyed into microscopic particles with one blow. This is the horror of the level single universe, and this is still the case when Martin did not use the star sword. Nar's face was completely gloomy, and he glanced at Martin with dread, showing solemnity. You'd better pray that you can stay so strong forever, otherwise, when I return in full body, I will be the first to kill you. Believe me, you are just a new level single universe, like you. I am and I don't know how many killed in the past billions of years. As long as all the ancient existences in this universe, Nar has more or less fought with them. Nar is such a crazy guy. If he is not too arrogant, he directly possessed the symbiote dragon with his soul. I ran to the earth without being attacked by Asgard, and fell asleep for 1,000 years. Martin sneered. Nar, facing me, you don't want to return to your heyday in your life. I won't give you this opportunity. Your soul is trapped here. What about your body? As far as I know, your body has long been imprisoned by countless rebellious symbiotes, right? Eh? Nar made a halt and uttered a low roar, and immediately sprayed a black mist at Martin, but Martin ignored it, and even took a step forward and forcibly ran through the black mist. Those black clouds are countless small symbiosis, which can be directly blocked by the supreme divine armor after covering Martin's body, and they are destroyed in an instant. Why do you know me so much? Nar looked gloomy. This is his greatest secret and a great shame. His body was placed on the symbiote planet, guarded by countless symbionts, but as he was trapped on the Earth, the countless symbionts on the symbiont planet immediately launched a judgment, and his body was attached and imprisoned in layers, and tried to swallow it. This is something that happened in the last 1,000 years, and only he himself knows the whole universe. But why is this new god named Martin so clear? I said, I'm here to kill you. I definitely want to know more about you. Nar, in front of me, your soul has nowhere to escape. Become a ridiculous toy in my palm. Martin sneered, shot one after another, and attacked several times. It was like subverting the entire galaxy, and it easily defeated Nar. With the tremor of countless stars and the fear and tremor of many civilizations, Martin smashed his whole body. Entered into Nar's dragon drive shell. Hiss. Stretch out his hands and tear it lightly. The symbiote dragon was torn in half by Martin on the spot. At the same time, powerful fluctuations were growing, and these remnants were destroyed in the twinkling of light. A scream faintly sounded. Found your soul. Martin sneered again and again, and grabbed the fleeing bright ball of light. Get out. Get out. Nar's roar came from his soul. But it was still useless. Martin had already grabbed it. In an instant, through the powerful scanning system of the Supreme God armor, Martin had a little understanding of Nar's soul. The abyss. This is the peculiar time and space that exists in your soul. Martin said indifferently. All symbiosis were created by Nar, and what is interesting is that the god of symbiosis was originally not a symbiosis. Symbiote is a creature that Nar created by combining his own special power from the abyss in his body. Damn it. Damn it. If I am perfect, if I have the sword of the necromancer, I can kill you with just one sword. Nar roared, and there was a deep horror. He didn't expect that this newly promoted cosmic god, with such vicious and precise methods, caught his noble soul in one fell swoop. His soul is not inferior to those cosmic gods to some extent. He should have escaped as a soul, all the way back to the symbiote planet, and regain his body. Buddha A diaresis from now on. Nar, everything about you belongs to me, whether it's the symbiosis or the abyssal world, it's all mine. Martin slowly gathered his palms, firmly grasped the soul exuding horrible waves, and gathered its living space little by little. You want to take everything from me because of your waste? Nar roared in a gloomy roar, and waves of soul erupted, but they were all suppressed by Martin in the first place. With the supreme god armor in his body, Nar, there is no chance at all. And more terrible things happened immediately. Nar felt an indescribable terrifying force, and saw a black cube phantom in Martin's body. In the depth and silence, there was a source of constantly terrifying vitality and spiritual force, like an endless Wang Yang. Generally inexhaustible. Be a part of me, Nar. Martin spoke indifferently. Suddenly volts. The fire source immediately stretched out a large number of chains. These chains have the soul and characteristics that bind all forms of life and spirit, modified. It is more like a combination of two powers. The power is endless. Nar. Bang bang bang. What's more cruel is that these countless chains are not binding, but directly like a sharp blade, first penetrate Nar's soul body, and then crazily entangled. The pain and despair in this can be imagined, and nothing is more terrifying and restraining than this. Nar screamed in pain, cursed, and tried his best to resist, but he was constantly pierced and entangled by more chains. Soon, his soul was like a mummy, entangled with countless chains. What kind of power is this? Even I can. Before Nar had time to say everything in the end, there was no more chance to speak up. His entire soul was dragged into Martin's body, and it was impossible, and forever, to make a sound. Nar was swallowed alive, in full view. Such a terrifying evil god who slaughtered the entire earth to nowhere was so fragile when faced with Martin. It only took a few seconds to end the battle, and he was swallowed by Martin. Countless people saw with their own eyes that a large number of chains protruding from Martin's body pulled Nar in. This is Martin's strength. Where did he go? Fury looked at the images from many satellites and took a deep breath, feeling mixed. There is nothing in this world. It is even more depressing to see that the guy who thinks he is the enemy has climbed all the way to an unreachable level. Then, clean up the mess, mobilize all the troops, and continue to destroy the Red Skull. If you don't kill the war criminal leader Red Skull, this war will never end. Fury closed his eyes and thought for a while, then decisively ordered. A crisis of extinction was solved so easily and casually in Martin's hands. Martin at the moment stood in space, indifferently overlooking the azure planet with smoke, with expressionless expression. Compared to the Earth, Nar was obviously more valuable, and he was indeed here for Nar. Where is this? There will only be more disasters in the future. Martin laughed in a low voice, took a deep look at the Earth one last time, and then turned around and was about to leave. The eyes that moved inadvertently stared at the being on the moon. Black Bat King. This is the first time Martin has seriously looked at this superhero known as the second most powerful superhero in the galaxy, in the comics. He just glanced casually, then walked directly into the space tunnel and left here. It seems that everything is restored to Pingjin. The Black Bat King stood there, always looking forward in silence. A terrible guy, isn't it? A guy with a big head and a small body, but the overall figure looks like a giant, quietly appeared beside the Black Bat King, and said in a deep voice. The frog chart is here. He and the Black Bat King live on the back of the moon and the other on the front of the moon, knowing each other but not paying attention to each other. I have been paying attention to him, and every time I see him, it seems to be watching a miracle. Nothing in this world is more beautiful than recording this kind of thing. Hey, how did you go? Frog yelled at the back of the Black Bat King, who left silently. Cybertron. Preparing for war, we now have a brand new goal, and all the legions are waiting for my orders. The first time Martin returned, he gave the order. The whole planet began to agitate again, and countless soldiers ran away, stocking up energy and ammunition, eagerly waiting for a new war. Ha! The majesty of the great dragon will surely spread throughout the universe. Niederhog, who had been suffocated for a long time but dared not move, even roared up to the sky at the moment, and the sky flying violently, let out a violent roar from time to time. Martin, on the other hand, returned to his residence and immediately plunged into his body with his own will. Nar, give me everything you have. Martin's icy voice slowly spread, and the huge will and the source of the fire were connected to each other indiscriminately, a little bit, tearing Nar's thinking apart. Even if it is an extremely ancient and terrifying existence like Nar, he can only make painful screams at this moment, but has no power to fight back. He can only feel that everything about him is insight by Martin. He didn't even have the ability to resist and commit suicide. Everything was brutally penetrated by the fire source, forcibly locked. Martin, you bastard. I am the immortal Nar, the immortal evil god. Sooner or later I will get out of trouble, I will kill you, and I will kill everything about you. Nar's voice was stern, and the soul body couldn't move at all. Nar, don't you understand that when you were imprisoned here by me, there is no future? You will end up worse than the two of them. Martin sneered. Phoenix and the Eternal Fire watched this scene in silence. And Nar will only be more miserable than the fate of the two of them. Let me see. Where is your planet? Where is your body? You know, this universe is huge, and ghosts know the specific location of a planet. Martin kept dissecting Nar's thoughts. This was an extremely cruel process, much more brutal and bloody than vivisection and so on. Every time he acted, he directly shredded Nar's self. But from the beginning to the end, Martin's movements were extremely precise, without any hesitation, as if what he tore apart in one hand was not an ancient noble god, but some kind of inferior species. It's this look again. Phoenix Force is also entangled with a lot of chains, but fortunately, these are not as cruelly suppressed as in the past. To be more precise, Martin does not care about its rebellion anymore. Phoenix Force stared at Martin with fear. The focus of the other person seemed to tear apart the defective gaze in one hand. It was not unfamiliar at all. At the beginning, when Martin faced Sithorn, his eyes looked at the noble multi-universe god Sithorn, and it was no different from now. It seems that in Martina's eyes, no matter what level of horror exists, they are no different from pigs and dogs to be slaughtered. They are all used to kill, there is no essential difference. This inadvertent cold blood and indifference was what really made Phoenix feel a shiver. Your memories of billions of years are so boring and monotonous. Martin picks and chooses against Nar's soul, constantly stripping away segments of memory, and 99% of them are scenes of battles with various gods. In the end, Martin captured the spiritual link of Nar's mastery of all symbiosis, forcibly stripped it, and successfully learned of a symbiosis planet named Kuntar. Countless symbiosis is the body that imprisoned Kuntar in Nar. I am the immortal Nar, even the gods can't kill me. I will be resurrected soon, and you will usher in my crazy revenge. Nar finally let out a roar, and his soul began to collapse, and the peculiar time-space named Abyss, brewing in it was about to dissipate at this moment. Unfortunately, Martin started faster, locking all of Nar's soul fragments in will, and even grabbing the Abyss together. I won't make the mistakes the gods made back then, so go to death with peace of mind, Nar. Everything you leave behind will belong to me, and I will make good use of your symbiote legion. Martin sneered in a low voice, and in the next second, in Nar's horrified gaze, he completely crushed and digested the last trace of Nar's soul fragments. Open the space bridge, target the symbiote planet Kuntal, and all legions will set off immediately. This will be an unprecedented hunting feast. Martin has always thought about things like opening up with a very rigorous and solemn attitude. It's very simple, because looking at the entire Marvel system, carefully studying the growth trajectory of each celebrity or god, in the end, there are only two skewed words in the whole story: open hang. In the whole Marvel, there are not a few main characters who are really honest in step-by-step hard work. From start to finish, there are all kinds of opening and closing, unreasonable opening and closing. Martin himself is a person who likes to open the hanger, can open the hanger to become stronger. He will never practice as hard as a second fool. Lay the foundation? Constantly accumulate your own strength and leapfrog challenges, accumulate more and more? Sorry, that doesn't make sense. This is Marvel, a world that pays attention to opening up. In this infinitely diverse world, honest people have no future. They rely on all kinds of plugins. The stronger the plugins, the mythical story of leaping from a mortal to a high god only happens in an instant. Martin stood on a 10,000-meter high building, facing Roar's howling wind. His clothes rustled. He looked down and saw that countless armies were gathering frantically, and under the leadership of various legion commanders, they rushed to the space bridge around the world. The coordinates of the Kuntal star, Martin has already entered into the space bridge, and the rest is just fighting and plundering. As for how to improve the combat power of his shapeshifting King Kong, Martin is also thinking about it. Either, after he becomes a multi-level universe god, he forcibly twists all rules, and his clan sublimates the shapeshifting King Kong group, but unfortunately, he is far from the multi-level level. The level of universe is still far away. Then he can only use other methods to open up his subordinates. The Cybertron army is invincible. With a violent roar, Megatron stared with scarlet eyes, and led the army into the space bridge first, followed by a few extremely excited monsters. Army from all walks of life began to swarm into it. Invincible. It's too far away. Martin shook his head. Shape-shifting King Kong, with the exception of the special non-combatant soldiers like Chaos, other individuals are basically born with second-level combat power. Anyone who throws them out on the earth is a superhero that can be beaten. It stands to reason that the starting point is a second-level race with its own powerful body and learning ability. Looking at the whole universe, it is a top species. After all, even the national qualities of the three interstellar empires have been dumped dozens of blocks by the shape-shifting King Kong. But, it depends on who you compare. If Martin spends his entire life at ease to be a universe god, comfortable, without excessive ambitions and desires, the current starting strength of shape-shifting King Kong is definitely sufficient. But Martin is a man who wants to rush to the infinite multi-universe. He has been promoted to level single universe. The next goal is definitely the entire multi-universe. The strength of his ethnic group is obviously not enough. Looking at the endless multi-universe, your strength is simply not enough. If you grow too slowly, I can only abandon you. Martin looked at the countless fanatical shape-shifting King Kong, his face calm.
Ida not that he was so cruel that he deliberately took a knife to his own people, but because if these shapeshifting diamonds were unable to make leapfrog progress, Martin would be left behind. Not only was it not a help, but it was a burden and a weakness, most of shapeshifting. King Kong will be violently retaliated by increasingly terrifying enemies.
At this moment, Martin thought of the terrifying ethnic group. Beyond the Protoss. That is, the first family of Marvel. This ethnic group, the most trash and lowest class people, are all capable of starting level single universe. Some outstanding individuals do not need to deliberately learn and practice, but only need to grow into adulthood without heart and lungs, and have a multi-level universe. Strength. The high-level cadres of the three ethnic groups can kill almighty universe levels life court in seconds. This time it is the main body, although this attack means a sneak attack. The terrifying primitive transcendence was simply called a juvenile by this arrogant race. Become stronger as soon as possible. Conquering the symbiote planet, plundering and enslaving all the symbionts is the first step in opening up. Transcending the Protoss, such a species, born above countless universes, should be my commander, the ultimate goal of shapeshifting King Kong. Martin slowly got up and opened his arms in the face of Roar's howling wind. The face that was gradually starting to laugh was full of prestige and ambition. At this moment, all the fires of shapeshifting King Kong seemed to have jumped. At this moment, as if they had sensed something, they raised their heads and looked at Martin, who was bathing in the gust of wind. For a time, countless soldiers went crazy, shouting Roar loudly, becoming extremely crazy. Niederhog even flew up directly, first sprayed out a majestic flame of divine power against the sky, and then nodded at Martin with an arrogant expression and spoke. Lord of Cybertron, I, the great world-destroying dragon, invite you to join the invasion of the planet named Kuntar. Niederhog pretended to be reserved, strong enough to break the tail of a planet. At the moment was shaking it uncomfortably. Its eyes flashed constantly at the moment, and kept secretly looking at Martin. It can't understand Martin's current state. It seems that Martin at this moment seems to have suddenly added something that it can't see through, and it has become more daunting. Martin flew directly to Niederhog's head and said lightly, "Then, let's go to destroy that planet and plunder all the valuable things there. All the rebels, kill." Ned Hogg was immediately excited, and immediately roared loudly, and the entire Cybertronian star trembled, so much so that Ultron directly issued a wanted warning against it. Although Cybertron has the support of the magic ball, even the battle of the level single universe cannot destroy the planet, but if the magic ball is activated for no reason, it will consume a lot of unnecessary energy. Niederhogger directly carried Martin and rushed into the space bridge. This magic dragon seems to be more and more adapted to life on Cybertron. Wanda looked up, her face was weird, her eyes flashed red, and she flew directly into the space vortex ahead. Banner looked left and right. In the end, he chose to stay in Cybertron. He was really not interested in war, although in his mind, Hulk desperately encouraged him to go to war. The most active performer was Kratos, the god of war. This Olympian was carrying 2 ulu-made axes with a terrifying grin on his face, and followed the army to kill the one who had never heard of it. Weird planet. This crazy war lunatic never cared about who the enemy was. He only cared about whether there was an enemy, how many, and whether it was enough for him to take the army to hack. Autobot, attack. Optimus Prime raised his great sword high, and in a crash, Bifrost descended, teleporting him and the army behind him instantly. Next second. On the Kuntasha star, where countless symbiotes climbed and squirmed each other, they were suddenly surrounded by countless army. The various strange symbiosis on the planet, at the moment looked at the powerful enemy in the space in confusion, and immediately began to wriggle one by one, turning into a variety of hideous monsters, making threatening calls into space. The symbiotes began to fall into a violent rage, changing into all sorts of weird and vicious and unfixed forms one by one, and one after another issued harsh warnings to the shape-shifting King Kong army in space. Are these symbiotes? Yes, I will pick the strongest one. Kratos looked down, and immediately showed a satisfied look. At first glance, the number of symbiotes stacked on top of each other showed bellicose and madness. Not to mention strength, just that kind of momentum is enough. This is very appetizing for Kratos. He has to choose a symbiote, and even the craziest, strongest, and most extreme one. Gradually, the entire symbiote planet began to agitate, and even the symbiotes that were backlogged in the innermost part of the planet knew that a powerful invader was coming. In general, the symbionts have low IQs, but those who can be attached to Kuntal are the most brutal guys. They have only one purpose, which is to imprison Nar's body.
Nar made them, and they spread all over the Milky Way back then. They were doing things to exterminate life everywhere. What's worse, Nar never treated them as normal creatures and subordinates, but just talked about them. The bottom line is used as a tool.
Therefore, after the arrogant Nar was planted to the earth in a daze, he lost the spiritual link with all symbiotes. The symbionts who were restored to freedom immediately rebelled, and went to cover and bury Nar's body one after another, and stuffed it directly into this one. The core of the symbiote planet. Kuntal, the body of that idiot Nar, was buried here. With the appearance of a space vortex, Martin has stood in outer space, observing the planet indifferently. Even if he deliberately suppressed his own pressure, the terrifying vitality of level single universe still made all the sensitive symbionts quiet down and shrank as if they had noticed their natural enemies. I can feel that Nar's body is inside the planet. Forget it.
Martin shook his head, turned to look at the legions under his command, and said lightly, "This is a feast that I carefully prepared for you. These symbiotes have the functions of assimilating genes and enhancing immediate combat power. They are the most perfect auxiliary combat battle suit, but whether you can own them or what level of symbiosis you can have, I can't decide, it depends on you."
Then. Good luck to you, my soldiers. After speaking, Martin left. After a moment of silence, Kratos roared first, and rushed to the entire planet regardless of his 2 axes. Hiss. Numerous symbiotes also began to roar, changing into various ferocious species, and rushing towards Kratos frantically. In an instant, all the Cybertron army began to move, one by one with grim complexions, madly rushing towards the entire Kuntar, and at the same time began to use all kinds of weapons to wash the ground with firepower. Boom boom boom. Suddenly, the skyrocketing explosion covered everything, and the planet that had been isolated from the world for too long was angered by this cruel posture. "You guys, we haven't offended you." A powerful symbiote let out a stern roar, and was extremely painful to be stimulated by the firelight that exploded frequently. With a bang, Kratos jumped to the powerful symbiote and grabbed it with a grin. "It doesn't matter that you don't offend. The point is that I like you." The symbiote was irritated, and immediately turned into a 100-meter behemoth, tearing Kratos with one claw. Kratos grinned and waved his great axe. The chaotic powers of his body would conflict with each other only if they were used only a little bit, but they could explode like a nuclear bomb. The power of that burst could happen all the time, which gave Kratos the power limit far beyond the current capacity. The more he hits, the crazier he is, the heavier the load Kratos suffers, and the body and soul begin to crack little by little. This is the battle mode of this god of war, frantically launching a self-harming kill, completely disregarding his own life, as long as he can hack the enemy to death. Hiss. There was a loud noise. Kratos hacked the symbiote to death, and destroyed the symbiote who was approaching him, crazily entangling him and intending to penetrate his divine power field, and then touch and assimilate his genes. "Go away. Your weak things don't deserve to be called my companions." Kratos shouted sharply, destroying the countless symbiosis entwined around him, but he rushed into the body of the giant beast in front of him. "You wanna die?" The powerful symbiote sneered and began to wrap Kratos, intending to possess and manipulate this crazy god. Possession is a success. Manipulable but failed. Kratos and it erupted in a fierce tug of war, and the two sides roared again and again. Similar things erupted across the entire planet of the symbiote. After countless shapeshifting diamonds covered a wave of firepower, they simply rushed into the symbiote, starting to open fire and searching for a symbiote that would satisfy them. This is a feast. If you look down from a high altitude, countless shapeshifting diamonds at the moment are densely climbing on the surface of interest, being crazily entangled by the semi-liquid symbiosis like the black wave, and even more peculiar symbiosis monsters appear from time to time, and then be the nearby shapeshifting King Kong set fire to annihilate. Possession and control, active possession and anti-control. This kind of difficult tug of war is everywhere. Some succeeded, some failed, but no matter what, this is a special hunting feast. The role of hunter and prey is never fixed. Although the symbiote struggled hard, they had no choice but to face the shapeshifting King Kong and the powerful enemies such as Kratos and Niederhogg. Their strength was simply not enough. The Kuntal star fell at an astonishing speed, and it clearly occupies an absolute number advantage. At any rate, it is also a planet made up of countless symbiotes. The number of races can be imagined, but the enemies they face are even more rogue. Support it if you can. Call someone if you can't hold it. It's useless to call people, just set fire and make noises, shattering all forms of symbiosis. It is simply unreasonable. Soon, a famous soldier who found a suitable symbiote and successfully turned it into his own battlesuit and companions, rampaged through the entire symbiote ocean, constantly pulling out some shapeshifting diamonds that were so weak that they were about to lose themselves. Where did these bastards come from? How can they be so clear to us? A symbiote who covered the shapeshifting King Kong and seized control of the body cursed loudly. Unfortunately, this was useless. It was quickly sniped, and after one operation, it was torn off and beaten half to death. The symbiotes isolated from the world suffered an unprecedented calamity. What's more frightening is that these robots did not seem to let go of their plans. The glass cover began to catch them frantically. The symbiotes were wailing in grief and angrily everywhere. The entire Kuntal was caught in huge amounts of wailing, and there were extremely fierce battles everywhere, and the flames spread. As time went by, the entire Kuntal star began to gradually become smaller, and a large number of symbiotes were killed or plundered. A group of shapeshifting kings began to go back and forth, continuously capturing more symbiotes and bringing them back to Cybertron. Gradually, when the countless symbiosis bodies dwindled sharply and could no longer cover the core of the Earth, Nar's huge body was finally revealed. Hiss. Martin is here. Is this Nar's body? As long as I thoroughly study this ghost thing, the entire symbiote clan will become my subsidiary race. Martin looked calm and stretched out his hand directly to the huge body in front of him. In an instant, a strange wave breathes. This is the ability that Martin has mastered after tearing up and digesting Nar's soul with the source of fire. In an instant, all the symbiotes trembled suddenly, whether they were surrendering or resisting. At the moment they all looked at Martin. In Martin, they felt the terrible fluctuation of 25. That was, the existence that had disappeared for 1,000 years, and that they feared the most. The evil god Nar. Damn it, this is Nar's unique mental fluctuation. Why does this guy actually master this mental link? A famous symbiote was agitated and let out a stern roar. This sound did not resemble the warning and roar just now, but there was a deep fear. There should be a big problem in Nar, otherwise it would not be possible to suddenly break the spiritual link that enslaved us 1,000 years ago. Slowly, in Nara's body, on the terrifying head, from the mouth, ears, and eyes, black liquid flowed out. As soon as this symbiosis appeared, the only symbiosis around immediately let after driving a long distance. It seemed to be extremely fearful. This is the king of the entire symbiote planet. My name is Quentin, the owner of this planet. This symbiote occupying Nar's body, slowly got up, and looked straight at Martin. The gaze that covered Nar's face clearly revealed with a jealousy and cold-blooded. Martin sneered, Master of Quintal? I think he was the first to rebel against Nar 1,000 years ago. That's right. Tell me why you have Nar's spiritual link. That guy is an immortal evil god and won't be killed by anyone. Quentin asked lowly. The reason why Nar didn't die is because he didn't meet me who could really kill him. Martin looked indifferent. Don't talk nonsense. Either the clan submits to me, and when my new subsidiary race, or he died. Quentin was silent for a while, and said in a deep voice, yes. Martin said lightly. My loyal servant, then hand over Nar's body first. Apart from Nar's body, anything else is fine. My symbiote family is willing to use it for you. Then you go to die. Martin sneered. After analyzing the spiritual link of the enslaving symbiote family that Nar possessed, at the moment suddenly broke out. In an instant, all symbiotes felt the fear that had dominated them for billions of years. This is the spiritual link that their creator, the crazy and tyrannical evil god Nar, can master. Countless symbiotes wailed, especially the symbiotes clustered around Quentin, which can be called the elites of the entire symbiote clan. At the moment, they began to burst and were wiped out by Martin. Quentin let out a miserable scream, and immediately manipulated Nar's corpse to pounce on Martin. Although there is no soul, Nar's body is also terrifying enough to fall into the hands of the symbiote leader who can perfectly control and sublimate life forms. Although the strength that bursts out is not as good as Nar's peak period, it is also very impressive. Unfortunately, Quentin faced Martin. Your greed and ignorance have blinded your mind. That is not so good. Oh, almost forgot, you have no brain at all. Martin sneered. In an instant, the only remaining Kuntal core was smashed by Martin with a punch. Even Quentin, who was trying to stop Martin, was hit halfway by Martin. Hiss. The harsh humming sounded, and Quentin repaired the defective body of Nar almost instantly. Martin raised his eyebrows, and finally faced the leader of the symbiote. Apart from anything else, he could repair the depleted body of Nar in an instant. This ability is indeed amazing. Then, I'm missing a pet, it's you. At the next moment, Martin appeared in front of Quentin, struck both hands, and in a crash, the mighty force of the space suddenly pressed up and completely defeated Nar's body. At the same time, Martin's eyes fell on desperately trying to kill the corpse. Quentin pieced together. The enslavement of the spiritual link has risen to the extreme at this moment. Quentin let out a scream, begging. Enough, the great lord of Cybertron. Quentin is willing to surrender and accept all your orders. You know me. The ancient existences of the entire universe have heard of your name more or less, and your real name has been engraved into the rules of the universe at the moment of becoming a god, and has become a part of the world framework. Quentin respectfully stretched out a large number of tentacles, and placed Nar's repaired body in front of Martin, and the phantom head also bends, expressing surrender. Very well, Quentin, from now on, your brand new name is Quentin. Martin laughed, and before the confused Quentin could react, a glimmer of cold flashed in his eyes. In a sudden, a huge will came, as if a world was crushed down, and the eternal and immortal spirit covered the past, matched with the source of fire. Linked with the spirit, began to forcefully erase Quentin's will. No. You can't do this. I am the leader of the symbiote family, I know many secrets, you can't kill me, Quentin screamed. I am not interested in your secrets at all. Go to hell. I will replace you with a new will that absolutely obeys me. Martin sneered, completely erased his original will, and then created a brand new individual. After a while. I am willing to serve you, the great creator, who replaced Nar's symbiotic god. The brand new Quentin immediately conveyed a will, with respect from the heart. Martin nodded in satisfaction. From now on, the entire symbiote clan will be a new subsidiary race under my command. You will dedicate your loyalty and life to me, and I promise to give you fair treatment in a glorious future. Martin promised. In an instant, the countless restless symbiotes all calmed down, accepting the words from the spiritual link, and accepting this cruel new reality. The only consolation is that it seems that the new owner does not treat them like a pig or dog like Nar. Symbiote, a peculiar species, has great potential. In a certain parallel universe, these symbiosis simply swept the entire universe, possessed all mortals and gods, and just turned a normal universe into a symbiosis universe. Martin is very interested in symbiosis. At this moment, the entire planet was caught in a grand carnival. The warriors who had returned full of rewards returned with their own captured symbiotes, and some guys even brought several symbioses with them. This kind of creatures are very interesting. Although they don't have life characteristics in the conventional sense, they have terrible potential in terms of non-life characteristics. This should be a compensation for sacrificing the evolution of the life side to the non-life side. As soon as the ambulance got a symbiote, it immediately started various inspections, and the results surprised him extremely. Symbiote, to a certain extent, is a high-level virus, which can be called the perfect end of the virus's continuous evolution. Parasitic on the host, can adapt to the host's special genes in a very short time, and then greatly tap the genetic potential, greatly enhance the host's physical function, and greatly increase the vitality, even if it is fatal, as long as the symbiote is not dead, as long as the energy enough, you can instantly recover the fatal injury. If this ability is used well, a good companion relationship can be formed. It's no wonder that the creator did not hesitate to launch a war to conquer and annex this race. This kind of ability is so exciting. The ambulance gazed at the symbiont in his hand and exclaimed. Damn, don't look at me with that look. It makes me feel sick. Be careful. I gouge your eyes and replace them with new ones. This symbiote has a bad temper, cursing, and it blends in with his words. In the body of an ambulance. The ambulance can clearly feel that there is something in his body, and he can communicate with each other. After Martin has the spiritual link, he directly has the right to control all symbiosis, which makes all symbiosis have to accept their fate and try their best to contact the aboriginals of Cybertron. Although I am reluctant in my heart, but for now, not bad. Martin stood on a 10,000-meter high building and looked down at everything. He could clearly feel the state of every symbiote. Similarly, with the help of the source of fire, he could clearly understand the state of every shapeshifting King Kong. The contact between the two, although it is inevitable that there will be friction, it is generally not bad. But there are even larger numbers of symbiotes. There is no host at all. There are too many of them. Just think about it. A planet composed of countless symbiotes, no core, no magma, no rocks, layer by layer all are symbiosis of various kinds. The number of this scale can be imagined. Then, just build a satellite, just like the moon and the earth, build a planet composed of symbiotic bodies. Martin raised his head and glanced up, quickly calculated various complex data, and then directly issued orders to all symbiotes without a host. Next moment, the horrible suction spread. Martin sent all of these symbiosis to outer space, and in a sudden, a group of black matter gathered, from small to large, from scratch, little by little, and flew towards a certain core. Whoosh! An ear-piercing roar came out, and all the symbiosis immediately shook. Looking in horror, they saw Martin throw a sword. Sword of the Necromancer. The first batch of symbiosis was born out of the Sword of the Dead. Billions of years ago, the cosmic gods wandered around the universe and conducted biological experiments on various planets. As a result, the sleeping Nar was awakened. Among Nar rage, he easily pulled out a twist from his shadow. His sword-like weapon, a sword, killed a celestial group. After that, Nar began to exercise this weapon repeatedly. Amidst the noise of flames and beatings, the Sword of Necromancer was born. This is the fundamental reason why the symbiotes feared the flames and noise. And now, Martin directly threw the Sword of the Dead, using this symbiote's life source weapon as the star core of the new satellite. Countless symbiotes fell into enthusiasm, rushing to the Sword of the Dead, obsessively enjoying the ancient breath. Soon, a symbiote planet orbiting Cybertron star appeared in space. All residents who want to have a symbiote must go to the satellite to personally select it. Only if you have personally contacted it will you know whether you two are in harmony. Martin's words spread all over the world. All the residents looked up at the sky, looking at the black symbiotic planet that looked like a black hole. Similarly, countless symbiotes are also looking down at Cybertron, and both sides are silent. For a long time in the future, they will find each other's companions. Martin, who had left, began to study Nar's body. After observing for a while, he patted it directly and blasted the ancient and powerful body to pieces. There is no research value anymore. A diaresis a Nar. The most precious soul was acquired by me. The symbiote family was annexed by me, and the abyssal world was controlled by me, and all his values disappeared. Martin shook his head. An existence that has been rampant in the universe for billions of years and has fought with all the gods, once perished, dead like insignificant dust in the universe. There is no doubt that Nar is definitely not the last god to die in Martin's hands. This is just the beginning. The whole Cybertronian is discussing the symbiote intensively. Walking on the street, you can see residents with the symbiote from time to time, or the symbiote temporarily took over the control of the body and began to stay here at will. The planet wandered. The new race combination will inevitably explode the power that shakes the entire universe, and everyone firmly believes in this. At the moment of the Earth, the devastation is devastating. 1 billion people worldwide have lost their lives, and the various animals slaughtered are countless. The infinitely multiplying army of symbionts has caused terrible destruction. The whole world is clearing away the monsters that may exist. Even Hydra doesn't have the mind to continue fighting the world war. It is trying to clean up the mess. It is ironic that the global situation has stabilized in this way. On the Empire State Building in New York, a man carrying 2 carbon sodium steel knives on his back was muttering to himself at the moment, looking crazy, saying all kinds of unexplained words. You know, I can always hear some strange sounds. They all love me. Tape. There is always someone who asks for tape. Huh. What are you talking about? You can't stand me so you want to go? Oh. Does my strength make you so painful, but don't even think about it? This guy put his hands on his crotch. The black battlesuit he was wearing suddenly squirmed. This is clearly a battlesuit transformed from a symbiotic body. The venom is going crazy, is really going to be driven crazy. As a poor symbiote who was expelled from the Kuntal star many years ago and had to wander in the universe, it went around and came to Earth not long ago, lying on a small planet. At that moment, it was ecstatic and felt that he had finally gotten rid of bad luck. It would choose the strongest individual on this backward planet to possess it, give birth to more offspring, and then possess more people, and finally rule the planet. But this ambition was ended by a man the moment it climbed out of the crater. This nicknamed Deadpool, a bastard named Wade, a neurotic with an abnormal brain, put an end to Master Venom's ambition. Get out. Get out of here. Wade, if you want to choose a scum from this world that I want to kill most, it's definitely not Quentin, but you. Venom struggled desperately, planning to leave Deadpool and ran away quickly. But Deadpool was clutching his crotch and refused to let go. What made Venom collapse even more was that it found that it possessed its best possession control and interfered with the host's thinking. Both of its racial abilities actually failed in Deadpool. Deadpool just won't let it go. It can withstand its manipulation physically, thinking. Well, Venom dared to swear to the evil god Nar, it's so special that it has never seen a life body with such a confused thinking in its entire life. The brains full of weird thoughts often have no reason, they're jumping in weirdness, they can't even keep up with the venom, and they are finally affected by Deadpool. Venom felt that he had also become mad, which should be regarded as focused and innocent cognition, gradually becoming dark, murderous, bloodthirsty and twisted. After confirming that the bastard named Deadpool couldn't kill him no matter how he killed, Master Venom made a decision. Escape. Run away quickly. If you don't run away, it will become Deadpool second, utterly neurotic and idiot. Ha, cutie. What are you planning this time? Do you still stab my ass with carbon sodium steel? Deadpool pressed the Venom tightly. Go away. And want to lie to Lao Su, your carbon sodium steel knife can only suppress your self-healing factor, but it can't kill you at all. Venom scolded. It tried hundreds of ways to kill Deadpool, all of which failed. Deadpool is affectionate. Oh, now the world has just been swept over by your fellows, you are now out, and once you are discovered, you will definitely be chased by the world, are you serious? The Venom suddenly stopped moving and fell silent. After a while, it asks, the human who swallowed Nar, are you sure it is no longer the Earth? Definitely, that man has taken his men to travel the universe long ago, and he doesn't look at the Earth at all. Venom breathed a sigh of relief. As the only symbiosis with self-will on Earth, Venom is also perceiving the battle that broke out in space, and the result is even more frightening. The supreme demon in its heart, the evil god Null, is actually called Martin. Humans swallowed in one breath. Venom will never forget the horror scene where the sticking-out chain drags Nar's soul away.
In fact, if it hadn't been for witnessing the end of the evil god Null, the source of fear and strength, Venom would not run away in such a hurry. It is really that its host, Deadpool, was too crazy. When Martin and Null went to war, the bastard was actually sharpening his knife, threatening that he would rush up and chop Martin as soon as Martin fell to the ground.
The reason is that in the past few years, there was a big power in the black market offering Martin's head. Deadpool has always been obsessed with this huge commission, and has been thinking about it all day, intending to chop Martin's head in exchange for the reward. Shocked Venom yelled at him, and the thought of fleeing was stronger than ever. Wade dog thief, neurotic, that is the existence of the god who swallowed the immortal symbiote. At this time, a vigorous figure climbed up the building. Deadpool and Venom turned their heads to look. This guy is not tall and looks underage. He wears a spider coat made of poor quality rags, loose. Man, your clothes are terrible. Deadpool shook his head and said with emotion. Really? I think it's pretty good. I did it myself. No, it's not the time to talk about this. The point is, cough cough. What are you doing here, stealing, or robbery? Righteous Spider. People, no, Spider-Man, you will be arrested and brought to justice. Trainee Peter Parker, who had been practicing for a few months, confronted Deadpool, and two guys who seemed destined to have similar smells, just met. I don't care who you are. The point is, you are here at the right time. Deadpool took a heavy shot on Spider-Man's shoulder, and immediately began to tear at his battlesuit. Under Spider-Man's stunned gaze, the strange man in black actually tore off the black substance. Your battlesuit tastes too bad. Try me. As a hero, a good battlesuit is a plus. Before Spider-Man could react, Deadpool slapped the venom on him. In an instant, the venom that had escaped from the sea of AA bitterness was extremely excited and frantically entangled the newcomer in front of him. What is this? Symbiote. Isn't this kind of ghost dead? After that dragon is killed, all symbiotes are dead. Why do you have one here? You villain. Spider-Man was terrified and tore it desperately, but his powerful force tore off a piece, and the other body parts of the venom immediately entangled. Don't be afraid, little thing, I'm very gentle, I will treat you well.
Venom was so excited that he was talking. Eat shit, Wade, I don't want to touch you in this life.
Huh. When Spider-Man reacted, he had already put on a symbiotic battlesuit. In an instant, his already terrifying bodily functions once again ushered in a terrible increase, cell activity, self-healing ability, neural reflexes, etc., all rose by an order of magnitude. The feeling that the essence of life had been sublimated in a moment shocked Spider-Man. This symbiote is different from the other guys. It's unique. Believe me, your two partners will be a very pleasant experience. Deadpool muttered, patted Spider-Man on the shoulder again, and then he jumped directly from the hundreds of meters high building. With a snap, Deadpool fell directly into the flesh, and then stood up after self-healing casually, and ran away with 2 knives, causing countless screams. Spider-Man was stunned, and after holding back for a long time, he tentatively asks, "Hey, this is Peter Parker." "Nice to meet you, Peter Parker. You can call me Roar Venom. How about we do something exciting?" "Well, you're still a high school student." "Well, I know a nightclub where girls like you best. It's not broken yet." Venom's chaotic thinking, influenced by Deadpool, immediately began to gain the upper hand, and began to encourage Spider-Man to do something exciting. "No, this won't work. Why don't you? You are obviously very excited." "Damn it, it's not a heartbeat, don't talk nonsense, it's nervous. Anyway, I want to go back to dinner, and I don't trust you at all." Spider-Man yelled, trying to tear off the venom several times, but he was really reluctant, and after being possessed, he would have a mental communication with the venom, and his spider telepathy did not have a sense of crisis. That is to say, this symbiote is really not malicious to him. So Spider-Man also jumped down, flipped through several buildings, and rushed to a small alley. "That's my car, it's called Bumblebee. Venom, you will be surprised. Can you stay by my side?" requires Bumblebee's consent. The characteristics of the venom made Peter Parker's heart beat. No one doesn't like this feeling of sublimating the essence of life. Moreover, he doesn't even have to make web shooters, and venom itself can act as a cobweb, climbing and jumping between buildings at will. Peter rolled over beautifully and jumped into a small alley. "Hey, Bumblebee, I brought you a new friend." Peter called Roar to a yellow beetle. "Peter, your friend is really peculiar, a car." "Ha ha ha." Venom sneered bitterly. Click. With the sound of shapeshifting, Venom instantly shut up, staring at the scene with wide-eyed eyes. A 6-meter-high yellow robot had already completed shapeshifting in a flash. The first thing it did was to pull out a powerful gun and aim it at Peter. The electronic eyes kept shrinking, scanning all the information quickly. "You damn thing. Get out of Peter's body. Your gods and your planet have been defeated by Cybertron. Don't you, a lone symbiote, want to be like your companion?" The Hornet frightened, and at the same time the weapon began to accumulate energy. "Calm down. Don't shoot." Venom and Peter roared at the same time. Bumblebee moved for a while, showing surprise. Peter hurriedly said, "This guy is not bad, he didn't hurt me. My spider telepathy didn't warn me either. Don't equate me with the group of people of the same race. I am sick of them. If I hadn't been persecuted by them, I wouldn't have escaped Kuntal." The venom was directly separated from Peter's head and became a part of it. A similar head screamed with open blood basin. Bumblebee hesitated, and finally chose to trust Peter. How amazing spider telepathy is, he knows. This is a life instinct that surpasses his many powerful thinking systems. "Symbiote, if you have any sinister thoughts, I advise you to leave better. Otherwise you will experience despair that is more terrible than death." Bumblebee threatened. "I said, I'm different from the other guys. And what did you say? Kuntal was defeated by you?" "Definitely. The entire symbiote family is now a subsidiary race of the creator. In other words, you should also belong to all the living entities of our Cybertron, you Black House." The Hornet roared loudly, and the startled Venom jumped, and it was a little lost. Kuntal, such a powerful Kuntal, countless fierce symbionts, were they defeated like this? Peter quickly took off the battlesuit. He really liked this handsome and domineering black battlesuit. Venom hummed 2 lows and immediately transformed into a human form, following Peter into the bumblebee beetle. I'm going to see Gwen, we have made an appointment. Peter sat in the co-pilot and said quickly. In the driver's seat, a virtual human figure was immediately molded. No way, Peter cannot drive as an adult and will be arrested.
Venom lay on the seat and whispered. Peter, are you going to meet your woman like this? I think. You have no bed experience, no gorgeous clothes, and even the car you drive is an outdated Beetle. Ayo. I'd ass over. If I were Gwen, I would never even look at you. You know, when I followed the bastard Wade, the two of us also took a taxi every day.
It seemed to be irritated by the words forced by the Venom. The Hornet suddenly accelerated to the entrance of the small alley, scanned the passing vehicles in a flash, and then changed its appearance abruptly. Turned into a Chevrolet Camaro. My God, this is the best supercar in the world. Bumblebee, great job. Peter yelled, stunned. There is no man who doesn't like super running. Even if he is not interested in super speed, he will never refuse the improvement of identity and self-esteem brought by super running. That is a symbol of money ability. In an instant, Peter's stubborn temperament changed a little and he straightened his chest. Hey, that's right, this is the car that a man should have. Listen to me, Peter, when you see that Gwen, you just sit in the driver's seat and pull the brakes while drifting down the glass. The Venom was shattered. What did you do with that weird guy before? Yes, but at that time we drove a taxi, and then we were slapped by a hot girl, calling us fishing line. Venom said. Peter sneered, and Bumblebee sneered. In other words, as the creature created by you, why can you stay in New York City? Your base camp should be in Africa. Venom asks. Because Bumblebee is my friend. 10 years ago on Broadway, His Excellency Martin drove a beetle and easily defeated 2 monsters and saved our family's lives. Peter said seriously. He will never forget that night when Hulk and 2 terrifying monsters were fighting on the street. He and Uncle Ben and Aunt May were swept in. When he was about to be killed, he was rescued by a shape-shifting King Kong. Get them off. After this, he accidentally met Bumblebee, and the two became very close friends. Generally, when there is no mission, the Hornet will turn into a beetle, and leisurely drive into New York City to find Peter. In this regard, the local official did know this, but chose to ignore its shape-shifting King Kong. He couldn't afford it at all. Just when the weird combination of Peter, Venom and Bumblebee was going on their big adventure. Earth Base. After several years of endless digging, Hercules finally reached a position close to the core of the Earth. Upon receiving the news, the sound waves rushed over and took the guards to investigate carefully. What did you find? Surely nothing will be discovered. Hercules hasn't noticed, nor has Sonic. But what about his line? No, Hercules doesn't believe it. The 6 parts of Hercules began to quarrel with each other again. Shungbo didn't bother to pay attention to them, just carefully studied all the information about the dive, but no matter how he checked it, there was nothing to find, which made Shungbo a little confused. He didn't know why Martin gave him this weird task. At the core of the Earth, what is there anyway? Notify the Creator, our mission has been completed, and all that is left is to wait for the Mother Planet's order. Sonic murmured a word, went straight back to the base, and then sent a message to the distant Cybertron through a unique transmission channel. Really, it's about to dig the core of the Earth. I didn't expect them to complete an order that was given at random at the beginning. Martin squinted his eyes to the direction of the Earth. The Universe God Group. At the moment, the Observer's frog picture, who was making daily records on the moon, suddenly stopped. He was keenly aware of the distinctive breath. This disgusting breath is clearly. Frog suddenly turned his head to look in the direction of the Earth, got up, his face became a little serious, and a trace of hostility was revealed in his eyes. The Universe God Group. He actually felt the breath of the Universe Celestial Group from the Earth close at hand. How is this possible? Since they defeated the gods 1,000 years ago, it stands to reason that they wouldn't come back to the Earth in such a short time, and this power of the gods actually leaked from the inside of the Earth. Frog kept searching all his past memories and records to confirm that there were no omissions, but where did this god on Earth come from? When dealing with the cosmic gods, the observers have always observed with a serious and malicious rigorous attitude. Because, as the oldest and powerful race in the multi-universe, the strong position of the Observer clan was ended by the cosmic gods a long time ago. The Celestial Group. The hatred of our leader Theon has never dissipated, and I will always stare at you. Frogtooth stared at the Earth indifferently. At that time, the multi-universe had not yet fully formed, and everything was in chaos and nothingness. A great existence named First Sky created a group of servants named Dark Sky God Group to relieve their boredom. This group of dark celestial gods all covered in darkness, later imitating their own appearance, trying to create new celestial gods. Eternal also joined this experiment, and after a huge cost, he imitated the appearance of the dark gods and created a group of colorful color gods groups. Then, the war broke out. Eternal led the gods and the color celestial group to jointly attack and kill the First Sky and the Dark Sky God group. The tragic war lasted for a long time. The final result was that the Dark Sky God group was extinct by the Color Sky God group and the First Sky God group was wiped out. The gods besieged eternity. One of the 5 great gods today is that in this battle, after killing the first eternal First Firmament, he succeeded in gaining the throne, seizing supreme authority in one fell swoop and becoming the second eternal. After the death of the First Firmament, the corpse began to fall apart, turning into infinite replication and multiplication. Multi-universe. This is the original origin of all multi-universe. The pain and despair you inflicted on us has never ended. Frog recalled the past that made the powerful observer family completely decline, and a strong sense of hatred emerged from that calm and indifferent heart. The birth of multi-universe was never the end of war and ambition, but the beginning of a more cruelty. As the winner, the colorful gods group began to rampage in the multi-universe unscrupulously, conducting various biological experiments frantically. Not only that, they also developed mass-produced models, and then continuously produced more and more different models. The gods of the world are sent to the various universes to do things. This overbearing and godless behavior completely angered the observers. The ideas and cognitions of both parties are two absolute extremes, and there is absolutely no possibility of compromise. The color gods group requires strong intervention and observation of life. Qualified species will be retained, and failed species will be extinct. And observation. The J family pays attention to letting the flow go, observing without desire, and refuses to interfere with the living body. The two multi-universe dominance groups, after frequent terrible conflicts broke out, simply fought and broke out a war that swept the multi-universe.
Originally, the Observer clan still had the upper hand, but because the color celestial gods were constantly making countless mass-produced models of celestial gods, they were madly thrown into the battlefield. With this terrifying quantity and reasonable quality, the two clans' the gap is smoothed out little by little.
In the final battle, Theon, the leader of the Observer clan, was hit by the energy accumulated by the colored gods for a long time and buried Theon directly, which led to the defeat of the Observers. To this day, there are a large number of mass-produced gods active in every universe, conducting experiments everywhere, while the Observers are very low-key, just silently recording, and never look at major events of various levels. As far as the Observers are participating, everything is because of that battle. The Observers were hidden, but it never meant that they had forgotten. Frog began to keep a diary viciously, gritted his teeth, and wanted to record the changes on the Earth. No way, he can only do this now, and for other things, he is not an opponent of the Celestial Group. The gods who produce no quantity alone can drown them in absolute quantity. After all, after exhausting the entire multi-universe, which ethnic group can face this almost endless sea of AA machines? Hey, these shape-shifting diamonds are actually digging for the gods. Frog had been observing in outer space for a while, and if he was thinking, he immediately felt something terrible, and he was awakening a little bit at the core of the Earth. In the next second, Frog saw a terrifying figure coming. Martin is here. It was after a long lapse of time that he directly descended on the Earth. The terrifying coercion covered the entire planet, and hundreds of millions of lives shivered in the shadow of Martin. The group of cosmic gods is of great research value to me. Martin stood in front of the huge amounts of pothole, his gaze spanned a long distance, and he looked directly at the center of the Earth, thoughtfully. Around, many shape-shifting diamonds are crowding Martin. The Earth's core, what is falling asleep on Earth, makes me, the flame god, feel uneasy. Serta also awakened from his deep sleep, and even pulled out the Twilight Sword, standing upright with solemn expression on his face. This is also the reason why I left you on the Earth. Once this ghost wakes up, only you can block him for a while. Martin glanced at Serta and said lightly. Well, anyway, Serta's the eternal fire is in Martin's hands. It doesn't matter if it is dead, it will be resurrected soon. Next, let me take a look at the famous model, Final Adjudicator, in this cosmic god group. Similarly, it is also the source of life on Earth. Martin took a deep look at the center of the Earth, and immediately jumped directly in, turning into a stream of light and entering the center of the Earth. With a snap of a finger, all darkness has become bright. This is just a simple application of the rules of the universe. Martin went all the way and smashed the barrier in front of him with a punch. In the end, he directly saw a slightly decayed and old cosmic celestial team.